And then, last but not least, Robin Gleason and Mark Ortley from AT&T. You spoke once on the original bill, but you'll update us on some of the changes in the substitute. And while you're setting up there, let me just read in a couple of cards so that we're sure to stay on time. Not wishing to speak but opposing the bill, Jay Lemonier from CWA Locals of Michigan. Colin Rose of Daystar, not wishing to speak, supports portions of the bill, opposes portions of the bill. Jason Gear with the Michigan Chamber of Commerce does not wish to speak but supports the bill. Welcome, Robin and Mark. Good to see you again.
Thank you. AT&T does support the substitute bill. We, along with many of the parties in the room today, have been working diligently on understanding people's concerns, addressing people's concerns. We've talked, obviously, with members of the industry as well as PSC. Some of you, to make sure we were understanding where the open issues were, where the remaining concerns are. And the substitute, I think, makes many changes in the wholesale area. We were hearing from a number of industry participants as well as the PSC that they thought repealing some of the sections that were in the original bill caused some angst for them. We did actually not see it that way, but nevertheless, understanding the issues that were raised, collectively, we have agreed to restore a lot of the wholesale language. I think you heard today from many of the participants that does seem to be easing some of the issues and concerns that were raised during our discussions, and I think you heard generally positive comments today on the changes to the substitute related to the wholesale issues. In fact, not only were they restored, in some cases they were even clarified. For example, it was explicitly clarified that the Commission would continue to have authority to arbitrate and enforce interconnection agreements, ICA disputes, establish wholesale pricing, those kinds of things. So I think with that has been a positive change supported by most members of the industry. There have been other issues that I raised today on some of the retail side of the bill. You know, our feeling at AT&T is that the competitive environment is rigorous out there. We're competing not just within the landline industry, but intermodally. A landline now competes with VoIP. Wireless, it's our view that changes need to be made to get rid of some of these outdated regulations just on one part of the industry. Some issues were raised today about the role of the PSC and would it be greatly diminished, and I guess in my view, the PSC still has a very important role in the competitive environment, and that role would remain as it is today. Specifically, the PSC would still arbitrate and be the decision maker on a lot of wholesale disputes. I think that's appropriate, consistent with the authority the FCC has delegated to them to be the referee on the ground between providers. They would retain that role. The PSC would continue to license basic local exchange service providers. They'd continue to have oversight of all the numbering issues. We would continue to be required to offer lifeline services for low-income people. That's a discount that's provided to income-based people. It's based on income, and in the case of AT&T, those discounts are rather substantial. They're in the $10 range, a discount off your service for seniors, and it's an extra $2 from the $10. The commission would continue to have oversight of right-of-way matters. It's delegated to them from the Right-of-Way Act, video complaints, delegated to them from the Video Act, slamming, cramming, the 211 dialing, required to reach community resource information. Shut-off protection is maintained for customers on active duty in the military for deaf, hard of hearing, and speech-impaired customers. That shut-off protection remains. All carriers are subject to FCC truth in billing rules. That would remain. And again, the Commission would continue to handle the complaints, emergency complaints, and things delegated to them from the Federal Act on wholesale issues. They also would have the responsibility for the access restructuring mechanism that was established in this law in 2009. So I do think the Commission would continue to have a major role. And I do think many of the consumer protection issues that the Commission has, they will continue to have. In fact, today the Commission gets complaints on services they don't regulate. They get complaints on DSL and other services that they don't regulate. They pass those complaints on to us as providers, and providers work with customers to resolve those complaints. I don't really see anything in this Act that would change that. That happens today. On the consumer protection, it's our feeling that the competitive environment is out there. It's rigorous. It provides consumer protection, and we should be like any other business in Michigan and fall under the Michigan Consumer Protection Act like any other competitive business in the state. We believe that the change added to the bill, Section 508, would do that and would remove any doubt about that. And that's, our view is that just like any other business in the state. I don't know if you wanted to address that briefly.
There was some discussion of this amendment by reference concept, the idea that the Section 508 might not be sufficient to accomplish the purpose Robin just described. From a legal perspective, AT&T doesn't agree with that. I mean, we point to Section 904 in the Consumer Protection Act that creates the exemption for transaction or conduct specifically authorized by a regulatory board. And I think, as you heard today earlier from Mr. Byrne, the MPSC, retail service would be substantially deregulated. There would be a continuing body of regulation that Robin just described, slamming, cramming, etc. But on things such as price, service quality, there would be no regulation. So I think within the terms of the Consumer Protection Act itself, it acknowledges that the critical conduct that I think you're concerned about here, pricing and service quality, would be within the scope of the Consumer Protection Act.
Let me, just to keep the trains running on time today, it's 10:30. We do not have a Commerce Committee coming in, but I still want to keep this, bring this meeting to an end. Let me just say to the members, too, I have one more card. Jennifer Greenberg had to take a telephone call, and she walked out of the room. But I just wanted to mention the support and the advice and the consultation that we had all together with the Telecommunication Association of Michigan, TAM, was absolutely vital in bringing together this substitute. And so a big shout out to their individual members and to Jennifer and Scott Stevenson and all the work that they did. I have two questions, but zero time. But will you make yourself available to members to answer any questions? Those are issues. You've heard some issues that are coming up. It's my intent to deal with some of the issues that were brought up today with the stakeholders, and when we get back from our in-district work periods, we will be addressing this immediately, I think. So, we still have a little bit of time. Come to find out, in spite of what the Senate says, we are still the deliberative body. Thank you so much for everybody in attendance. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.